Call this meeting to order. We're going to interview candidates for the open city council seat this evening. There are 4 candidates, and we'll give them 15 minutes per person, and we'll ask them to introduce themselves, and we'll ask them a series of questions. Each council member will ask a single question, and then we'll move on. The first candidate to be interviewed this evening is Houston Frizzell. Good evening, Houston. Would you go up to the podium and give us your name and address, please?
Hello, Council. My name is Houston Frizzell, 506 Mandolin Lane in Cortez. Cortez native. You want me to just launch into a little bit of history about myself? Or? Okay. I am a Cortez native. I was born and raised. My wife is a Cortez native as well. After we got married in 2000, we did move out to Arizona just to try to experience a little bit of the world. So we got out a little bit, worked in school for a little bit. When our son was born in 2002, we decided to come back to Cortez. This is home for us. We didn't want to have to worry about raising a kid in a city. We wanted him to have a lot of the experiences we had growing up here. Both of us went to school here, obviously, through the school district, graduating through Cortez High School in the mid-90s. When we first got back to Cortez from Arizona is when I started my career selling cars, initially with New Country Auto Center here in Cortez. After quite a bit of time there, moving up, ultimately becoming general sales manager there, we parted ways and I went to work for Durango Motor Company up in Durango, commuting every day, 100 miles a day, easy. I did have a lot of people asking me if I would consider moving to Durango or Bayfield to be closer to work, and that just wasn't an option for me because that's not home. Home is Cortez, this is where I wanted to be. We had kids, our kids at that point were in the school. It just made sense to keep everything based right here, just as a part of this community. I did have the opportunity then, eventually in 2019, to come work for Sneaky Motors, the Chevrolet store here in Cortez. It just made sense, it's 1 mile from my house versus 100 miles a day. At that point, we had our son in his senior year of high school. We had our daughter finishing up middle school. It just made sense for me to be back home. So I went to work there as a general sales manager, and with that, it actually has allowed me to free up a lot of my time so that, I'm working 5 or 6 days a week. I've got the evenings available. I've got time on the weekends to be a part of something like this. It's something I've been interested in for quite a while. I've watched and listened to meetings for quite a while. I just feel that now's a good opportunity for me to just kind of give back to the community that's helped me be successful and helped me raise my family. So I just want to throw my name in the hat and go from there. See if I can be of help.
Thank you, Frizzell.
Yes.
The first question I have is, do you have the time for the extra meetings you may need to attend and the council meetings held twice a month? We don't just meet twice a month. There's extra meetings, sometimes finance meetings, special meetings, retreats. And sometimes it's not just evenings, sometimes it's Saturdays occasionally. And do you have the time for that extra involvement?
Yeah, absolutely. If I am working a Saturday, I'm typically out of there by 2 o'clock or so. We shut down everything to give our employees time to have a life outside of the dealership, which is just one of the values that the owner of the store's had for 40 years. And just part of why it's a lot of fun to work there. We do have a lot of freedom and a lot of flexibility. If I need to break out for a few hours during the week, that's not going to be an issue either. Saturdays, I'm off every other Saturday. So I'll be available. Like I said, Saturdays when I'm working, I can get out early. So yeah, I don't think that'll be too much of an issue. We can rearrange things on that front if we need to. Yes.
Thank you for coming in. How do you work with people on issues where you disagree?
For the most part, I try to find see if we can't find the high ground, see if we can't find some common ground. Just listen to the different sides. Try to get all the information instead of just making a snap decision. And just try to Oh, I guess, yeah, like I said, just try to find some common ground where you can work for everybody.
Hi, Houston, Councilman Raymond. My question is, do you have specific training, municipal leadership and team building skills? And how would you use these skills on city council?
Okay. I don't really have any official training per se in government. That's part of why I want to be a part of this, is like kind of learn, I don't know, just kind of build myself up, I guess, so to speak, just by learning more. As far as building a team, I've been in sales for pushing 20 years now, various aspects. A lot of that as a manager, so definitely making the team work together, making sure there's some cohesion. I do that on a daily basis, really, the dealership right now, just making sure that everyone's working together. And again, if I got to get in there, mediate and help two people that are having a disagreement, find the right answer, then that's part of what we do.
Thank you.
Okay, Houston, what do you think is the greatest opportunity and the greatest challenge now facing the city?
Oh, those are both really good questions. I'd say, as far as the opportunity, I think Cortez has the opportunity to grow in a good way. I think tourism is something that we need to dig into, see if we can't find a way to promote tourism in this area. I mean, this is God's country. We all chose to live here. We know what it is. Maybe we can get the word out there to help draw the people here, let them help spend some dollars here, if it's with the hotels, with restaurants, with local businesses. Just kind of helping it to grow. In that sense, I also think we need to find a way of bringing some industry. Let's try to get some more well-paying jobs in here, so that people want to come live here, so that they want to raise their family here like I did. I know when I came back from Arizona, that was one of my biggest challenges back then in the early 2000s. Is having grown up here, I didn't really see any opportunity to raise a family here and to be successful. And like I said, I've been very fortunate with my career that it's afforded me just that. I want to make sure that there are going to be some other opportunities for other people, maybe other people who have grown up here that want to come back and do the same thing I did, as far as raising their families here as well.
Thank you.
As far as the challenge, I'd say it's the same thing.
All right, Houston, what other skills or knowledge would you bring to council?
I think of myself anyways, that I've always, for the most part, pretty much worked well with others, that I can just be a part of the team, that I can see opposing viewpoints, that I can kind of see where another person's coming from. I guess leadership. I'm not afraid to get in there with the trenches. I'm not afraid to get to know the city employees, the different department heads, whatever, on a more personal level, to kind of understand what it is they're up against every day, so that we as a team can help to build them up as well.
Thank you.
Worley, do you have a question?
Yeah, Houston, do you have any experience with any budgets? And if so, what kind of budgets was it? What amounts was it, Senor?
Okay, I'm not going to have any specific dollar amounts right at hand, but I know that we could say, just in the course of running the sales department of a car dealership, millions of dollars worth of inventory, depending on what's going on. That's unfortunately not the case right now. Cars are kind of hard to come by. But not only working with my budgets with the dealership, with inventory, advertising, various things. I also did work briefly as a board member with the Four Corners Child Advocacy Center. I was on their finance committee, so I did help them with their budget and expenses. Prior to that, when I was a lot younger and a lot thinner, I worked with the local car club, the High Altitude Steel, used to put on the big car show in the park every Memorial Day weekend. And with that, I ultimately was the treasurer, helping put together that budget and doing all the expenses paid, things like that every year with that. So yeah, I've had a lot of experience, I can say, through my life, just working with the budget, expenses, etc.
Okay, thank you, Senor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Houston. We appreciate your running for city council and wanting to be part of the community, giving back, and we'll discuss your interview, and thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you guys for your consideration. I appreciate it.
So we have a few minutes till the next candidate will start at 6 o'clock with the next one. That would be Matt Kieffer.
He's coming in now.
Yeah, he just arrived.
Okay, we'll give him a few minutes to settle down. Good evening, Matt. We're early, so we'll begin now, if you're ready.
Okay.
Need any time?
Do I need time?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, very good. Okay, would you tell us about yourself? You have about 3 minutes to do that.
Sure. Yep. So my name is Matt Kieffer. I've lived in Cortez now for 17 years. I'm a teacher. Just finished last week 26 years teaching. So I moved here from Salida. Before that, I lived in Pueblo. So I've kind of got a pretty good experience around the state of Colorado. I've seen lots of different things. So I want to just say thank you for giving me the opportunity to apply in the first place, and then letting me come and speak to you guys too. I think that's really fantastic. I was previously on city council for 8 years. I was the mayor pro tem during that time. And even though it didn't really mean a lot, I did get the second highest number of votes in both of those elections. I think I was the first person in town to decide that yard signs would be a good idea. And then I came up with a brochure, and Danny Porter and I knocked on doors, and I think we probably hit, I think at one point we counted like 400 houses. And I think that that's, really important that we did that. Being a teacher is really a unique position in the community because you get to see all the people that live in this town. So you've got, some of the people that are a little bit lower on the financial spectrum, all the way up to, the doctors and their kids. So you really get a good pulse, I think, of who's in the community and what they do for work, and how they make ends meet, all those sorts of things. So I feel like I've kind of got a unique perspective in that regard. I think I've served probably on 6 boards, nonprofit boards in the community. The longest was the Four Corners Child Advocacy Center. I wrote curriculum for them regarding safe touch and all that sort of thing for Child Abuse Awareness Month. So I was really involved with that organization, but a variety of other organizations as well. Cultural Center, for example, was another one. I guess want to say that I'm pretty proud of the 8 years that I was on city council. We had a lot of projects that really probably wouldn't have happened if we hadn't kind of pushed things in that direction. So some of the things, for example, like the hydroelectric plant, which is just kind of a moneymaker down for the city, is one of those things that, long term, it made a lot of sense. Solar panels on the rec center, the bike lanes, neighborhood electric vehicle ordinance, just, to name a few of those things. I think what I'm most proud of, however, is my work with the Orton Family Foundation. And that was kind of a long-term project. And I don't know if council remembers or not, but we were tasked with going into the community and communities that potentially are were underserved, and trying to figure out what it was that people that live in the community really wanted when it came to planning and zoning. And so that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. It was a long-term project, but really revamping the idea behind planning and zoning. So we're not putting up 8.5 by 11 saying, come to us. You need to come here. We went to people and we asked, and that really did inform, I think, a lot of our decisions around planning and zoning. So that was pretty powerful. I was the chair for the medical marijuana task force way back in the day. We met, I think it was twice a month for about 6 months. And I took that very seriously. We had invited people from Denver to come down and talk to us a little bit about what are some of the challenges facing the industry, what does it look like in other communities, and that was hard work for sure. We had a really diverse group, but we were able to bring everybody together and I think to be really informed. And I'm sure many of you know too, I faced a recall election along with 4 other people on council, and it was another campaign. We went out and we knocked on doors and we talked to people and we kind of stated our case, and that recall effort did fail 82%, I think, to 17. So I feel like that we had some pretty good faith from the community members as well. That they looked at us and they said, okay, yeah, this is kind of bogus, and we want to make sure that the council stays in place. So that was another kind of highlight. So again, my hope is really, I think that there's a strong council right now, because I think that the council is really diverse, not just in its makeup, but also diverse in your viewpoints and the way that you interact with one another, and with the public as well. I would really like to be part of that process.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
My question is, do you have the time for the extra meetings you may need to attend and the council meetings that meet twice a month? Does your occupation permit you the time to have that extra time to attend?
It really does. I would say if you had asked me back in December, I probably would have said no. I was the principal at Southwest Open School, and that was pretty much all consuming. I've gone back into the classroom at this point, so I have summer off and extended breaks at Christmas, Thanksgiving, those sorts of things. But in terms of being in city council meetings, that shouldn't be a problem at all.
Thank you.
How do you work with people on issues where you disagree?
I think it's really a delicate process. I think it's one of those things where, as an individual, I have to check my own ego, and I have to realize that not everyone agrees with what I think or what I say, and that it's really important to listen and not just parrot back what the person said, but try to bring them around to my understanding of what that issue is. So it takes a lot of time. I have a lot of background, an extensive background in restorative practices and restorative circles. I've done that with groups of 2 people all the way to groups of 22. So I would probably implement some of those same restorative practices in terms of listening.
Okay, Matt, this question may sound somewhat redundant, but I would like to emphasize the last part of it. The question is, do you have specific training in municipal leadership and team building skills, and how would you use these skills on city council? I would emphasize that would be the brunt of my question. How would you use these skills on city council?
Absolutely. I feel like the experience that I had on council before definitely is a plus. I would be willing to, as a council member, either take on a special project or head a special committee or be involved with a nonprofit, for example, on behalf of city council, because I do feel like I have a background in group dynamics and again with restorative practices and those sorts of things, working with the public and other people on council. I feel like another plus for me being a former council member is that I do know most of the staff still, and I have a good relationship. So I feel like that could go pretty far in terms of navigating maybe difficult situations.
Thank you. Rachel?
Okay, Matt, what do you see as the greatest opportunity and the greatest challenge now facing the city?
I think in terms of the greatest opportunity, it is to rebuild a sense of community, actually, and that looks like a lot of different things. For example, the high-speed internet initiative, I think, is an issue of equity, really, and so we look at within our community pockets of poverty, for example, that maybe, this could be an equalizer, for example, and bring people together. So I think that's an opportunity. That is also our biggest challenge. I feel as if the community is very much divided at this point, and very vocal. And I think that that a lot of healing can come from just making sure people feel heard and that their needs are addressed.
Yeah. What other skills or knowledge would you bring to council?
So I do, I think the biggest one, of course, is an understanding of how the departments within the city work and kind of how their budgets work. I've already talked to a couple of people that are in charge of departments, and I said, hey, if I am appointed, I would like to meet with you and figure out how things potentially have changed since I've been gone, since I haven't been on council. So I think that being able to, the skill of being able to speak with someone and ask questions that might ferret out some of the challenges that staff might be having within the city, because that's real, that happens. And then I think that extends to the public as well. That probably one of my best skills is to meet with people and to kind of ferret out what their needs are as well.
Thank you.
Well,
Hi, Matt.
Hey.
It's already, I was going to say, I think you probably answered this question, having the experience with budgets, but you mentioned that you worked with city's budgets before and some other school budgets and everything. So you probably answered the question already, but I just wondered if you wanted to add any more to the experience with your budget.
well, I would just say orally that, budgets are something that as a math teacher, I kind of geek out on a little bit. I tend to go in, and it was really challenging for me before to look at the budget from a department and kind of be like, I wonder why we're spending so much money on poop bags for Farmers and what have you. And then realize that that's a legitimate expense. So it's really kind of like putting things in their place and in perspective and looking at the overall budget and without being too critical. I think that you could easily go down the rabbit hole. And I want to make sure that I don't do that I ask the questions that are clarifying without, being too much of a pain.
All right, thanks, Senor.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Matt, for sharing your expertise with us and interviewing and wanting to be part of the city council. We appreciate your civic duty. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next interviewee is Alan Ralston.
I think that's
He's
him.
not due here till 6:15.
I think that's him in the hall.
He'll be here shortly. Good evening, Alan. You go up to the podium and tell us your name and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Okay, my name is Alan Ralston. I've been around on the earth a long time, so I have a lot of experience. I've been in Cortez coming up on 4 years, and in Colorado for 20 years. And let's see, I can't think of anything more, anything impressive.
Okay, I'll begin with the questions. Do you have the time for the extra meetings the city council is required to do, plus 2 meetings we have a month? Sometimes we have special meetings, sometimes we meet on Saturdays occasionally, and sometimes all day. And it's, will your occupation or your livelihood hinder that time?
No, I'm retired, so the only conflict I can see is coffee shop time at 9 in the morning or something like that.
So you have the time. All right, thank you.
How do you work with people on issues where you disagree?
Well, I've learned, like I said in my letter, I've learned to disagree without being disagreeable, use my sense of humor to defuse the situation, and then try to listen to everybody sincerely, their viewpoint, and respect it.
Okay. Alan, do you have specific training in municipal leadership and team building skills? And how would you use these skills on city council?
I don't have any specific training, but I've been involved with municipalities for half my life, it seems like. Being a city council member in Memphis for a while. I was public works director in Montana for 3 years. And, when I retired, I was managing water and wastewater systems in Edmond Metro District in Durango. So, and we didn't have any great customers, except maybe when we plow snow. We just have to tell them to plow snow because they need to get to work. So you did run into some stuff like that. But you just have to, I guess you accumulate people skills eventually. So I feel like I can work with, a lot of irate people. I've done it. I remember in Montana, I got so I was public works director. I hated to go to the post office because people were yapping about the bottom in front of their house like it's the most important thing in the world. So you have to listen to it and say, yeah, I'll get there. So I guess my training has been hard knocks way.
And what do you see as the greatest opportunity and the greatest challenge now facing the city?
Greatest opportunity, I'd say, okay, I'll start with the challenges I think are, we probably need better internet. I mean, I live in the northeast part of the town. If I was running a business, I'd be pulling my hair out because you can't get steady service there. So I think that's one of the big, it's all an opportunity, but one of our challenges. And to me, you have to have, even though I'm not a techie guy, you have to have really good internet service so that you can have other businesses that will want to come here and provide jobs. So I think that's a key opportunity and challenge. And then I have an agricultural background, and so one reason we moved back here, we spent 3 years in Montana, my wife had a job there, we moved back here. But I see this area as being able to be, in the face of climate change, that we can be pretty self-resilient, self-reliant here. And we're already developing a food system here, like we used to have. And so I think that's important that the city cooperate with that movement or that philosophy. So I look at things basically like that, that we need, there's ways you can mitigate the dry weather and things, we just have to teach people how it can be done. And so that's one of my main interests. I guess I would invite the city, the parks we have and things like that.
Thank you.
Alan, what other skills or knowledge would you bring to council?
Well, I've had a couple of quarters of accounting for my business. I was in business in Montana for 20 years in store business. So I learned to do all the financial calculations like cash flow and all that stuff. And then I've been through the budgeting process for several years as public works director over in Mangus also. Although we had a different income stream in Montana from property taxes and not sales tax. But so I got all that practical experience looking at books and understanding it. I was also in a bank board in Montana for several years, and so I learned the ins and outs of that kind of finance, and I also borrowed a lot of money, so I understand how hard it is to pay it back. Just the practical stuff like that. And I'm kind of analytical, so I like to look at facts and figures and see where money's going and how we're spending and things like that.
Do you have any experience with budgets? And if so, what amount of size of budgets you've worked with?
Yeah, I was trying to remember like the bank's budget. It was probably, I think, around a couple $1 million. We were hurting for money before. When I was just getting done with my session there as on the council, we got our first medical marijuana store, and I've since talked to Heather. She's now a town manager. She's a city treasurer around there. So they've got a couple other stores, and it's really helped their budget. They have surplus money to spend, and we didn't have it before. So we had to struggle to put up, like, get another water storage tank, and we had to put in some fire hydrants. So it was a big challenge. And we got some grants for that too. So I say in my business, it was a small version of IFA or Big R. So I think I hit 1 year ahead of $1 million in sales. So it's, it wasn't very big, but it wasn't very small. And I did cash flow projections and budget analysis and things like that, cost flow or cost analysis and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for interviewing with us.
Okay.
We appreciate your stepping forward.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me here. I was kind of surprised.
Thank you, Alan.
Okay.
Mayor, Mitchell isn't here yet. His interview time is 6:30, so if you have a few minutes,
Okay,
watch for him. He's here.
okay.
Thanks for here yet.
We'll wait for Mitchell Thomas to
Yeah.
hear.
Going to vote and announce tonight, or
We can, but we can wait until next meeting if we want.
what's your feeling about that?
I think we could decide tonight.
Yeah, I think,
Good evening, Mr.
What do you think? Do you want to decide tonight or
You
wait?
are.
You know how that is. Hello.
if we can agree, if we can vote, I think so, because
Whenever you're ready, we're ready for you.
tonight,
Want to go up to the podium? And, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello,
Hello.
I'm Mitchell Thomas. I live in the city. I didn't bring the little resume that I sent to you, and I'm happy to go over it if you have any questions, but I applied because I knew that Amy had resigned. There was an opening, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have about me.
Okay. I'll start, Mitchell. Do you have the time for the extra meetings that might be required? Plus the council meetings?
Mike,
Yes.
excuse me, I'm gonna have a little bit of trouble hearing,
Okay,
so it's a little echo, but go ahead.
okay, I'll back up, slow down. Do you have the extra time that might be required to be on the council besides the 2 meetings we have a month? Sometimes we meet on Saturdays, rare occasions, and sometimes all day. Sometimes we have retreats. Does your business allow time for the council?
Yes, it does. And my wife does too. She's agreed to this, so this was not a individual decision.
All right, thank you.
How do you work with people on issues where you disagree?
Say that again.
How do you work with people on issues where you disagree?
Well, one of the things, thank you for asking that question, because it helps me remember my little resume. I have been, well, in business for a long time, but I've been a referee for a long time, over 40 years, at different levels. And the interesting thing about officiating is that you generally you're getting about a 50-50 split on every time you blow the whistle. And I accept that. I also accept the fact that people will sometimes come up to you when you think you've done a poor job and tell you how great a job you did. And then I get the other side of it too. When I think I've done a good job, I'm told that I didn't do such a good job. But I don't take it personally. And I just went up 2 weekends ago to my eldest grandson's graduation. He's 18. And excuse me, he's up in Avon. And you always get a little nugget from where you go. And so this is what I took away from the commencement talk. There was 3 things that they suggested that would be good things to look at in life. And remember these the way they gave them. But one was to be kind. One was to be courageous. And one was to be fun. And I believe that in my tenure here, if I can do those 3 things, that's a huge accomplishment.
Hi, Mitchell, thanks for stepping up. My question is, do you have specific training in municipal leadership and team building skills? And how would you use these skills on city council?
My answer is yes. From a fairly young age, I've been involved in different levels, working with government. I worked for the government in my 20s in California. Was in the military over 20 some years, National Guard, Reserve, and active duty. And in these programs, whether with government or private business, working with the Chamber of Commerce, or in the military, or even officiating, we always had training sessions that would be required generally every year. And those types of activities were part of the training. And as a business person here in Cortez, I've gotten a lot of training, but I learned all about the different departments. I still volunteer with the Historic Preservation Committee. And I've been on a number of committees here in Cortez. So my answer is yes.
Thank you.
Mitchell, what do you see as the greatest opportunity and the greatest challenge for the city?
I think the greatest opportunity, and I think the last year, 2020, gave a lot of people a lot of opportunity to look at things differently. I know I certainly did. I'm 72 years old, and we've never experienced something like we experienced in 2020. But it allows one to experience change, and I don't care what age you are. Change is not all bad, and it allows you to look at things and how would you do things differently. So, as an opportunity, I think that there are a lot of positive changes that came through that, and allow people to look at things a little differently. That probably the biggest challenge is to how to look at the city of Cortez, which I feel I'm a pretty big part of, and how to encourage small business people and the businesses that have been here, which we have a couple of large businesses that have been here for years, and how to work with them to assist them, to want them to be here and stay here in Cortez. I know there's a lot of talk sometimes about going out and recruiting businesses and everything, and I think that we do have people that come here looking for opportunity. And I think we have to be prepared for those people, particularly young people that are coming here to look to start businesses or be part of businesses or take over businesses that are here. I like to think Cortez is a diamond in the rough, and I like to protect that in a way that will allow other people to come here and enjoy the same things that I've benefited from.
Thank you.
Hi, Mitchell. What skills or knowledge, what other skills or knowledge would you bring to council?
I'd like to think that I'm a fair person. I don't come in with any pre-judgment sort of things. I have 5 children that always assist me in telling me when maybe I didn't make a decision that they like, or vice versa. And I like to go back to what I said. I really enjoyed what I got out of my eldest grandson's graduation, to think that, that you could be kind in this arena, to be courageous, which meant more than just, it meant more about you know, making decisions that, you know, are going to affect a lot of people's lives here in this community, one way or the other. And then the fun part, because I've always believed in any board or anything that I don't want to take myself too seriously. I also want anyone that's already kind of agreed to what you've agreed to volunteer your time and services, that you feel good about what you do. And I really mean having an enjoyable time with it. There's an old saying that I learned a long time ago that in a lot of different things that kind of came up the same way, and it goes something like this. It's great to be part of something and do something, but it's also great to give back. And I have been very fortunate in this community. Most of you know that. I know most of you pretty well. I've been very fortunate here, and this is just a small way that I can give something back to Cortez.
Well, hi, Mitchell. Do you have any experience with budgets, and how big are the budgets amounts do you work with?
Well, I heard the word budget. I'll repeat again, I have 5 children, and I work really hard for them, even if they're from 51 to 23, and I work really hard with my 23-year-old to balance that checkbook. The other children are adults too. But yes, I work very hard here, budgeting the business. As most of you know, most of my business is with 2 limited liability corporations. We own real estate and we manage real estate. And so, yes, I know how to balance a budget.
All right, thanks, Senor.
Thank you, Mitchell. We appreciate you coming forward this night. Thank
Is
you.
that all?
Yeah.
Well, I thank you all, and I'll say it again. Thank you for serving and volunteering your time. It's a commitment, and I thank you.
Thank you, Mitchell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That concludes our city council interviews. Are we ready to continue on? Okay, the next item on the agenda is the marijuana regulations discussion. Let's see. Who would like to begin with this?
Included in your packet, Mike, I had good information from the town of Minkus. They have, I think the interest was to talk about fee, where that would proceed. If we were to do that, of course, we would need to put that on a ballot to our taxpayers, but I included in the packet information from Minkus. I did contact Durango and Dolores as well. Durango does not charge a fee. They started almost the same time we did with all our regulations. Actually, we shared most of our information, and they did not go to their taxpayers or charge a fee. So I didn't put anything in from them because there was not really any information to put. They do charge more than we do for the renewal of licenses for marijuana, and they feel that that's how they get their transaction fee, is from their charge to renew their licenses each year. They have currently 11 licenses in Durango, and they have 1, I think, on the table right now. So that's how they felt they were getting their fees from similar to what a transaction fee may be. If you would like, I invited Heather to come tonight. She is an expert in this. She helped prepare this ordinance and work with them on doing that, so she has, information to share if you would like that. I'm not real sure where this discussion, you want to go with this discussion, but she's happy to talk to you about it.
Okay, because I have a few questions for you, Heather, if you don't mind going to the podium.
Absolutely do my best. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Yeah, thanks for coming over. So, I noticed what you passed said that the transaction fee can go up to $10 before going back to the voters. So what is it at currently, and how much, and what did you start with, and how much did you make? Because I saw, sorry, I have a million questions, because I saw you capped the first year at 50,000, and then was that just the first year? Okay, so I guess some history on that.
Okay, so, to start at the beginning, and I'm not a legal expert, so, however, when you are asking for a tax from your voters, you have to estimate the first year revenue to the municipality and say, we think we're gonna get this much. And had things collected more than 50,000, we would have had to rebate that back to the stores. So that's where my email to Linda came in. We really need to talk to, for us at Sherman and Howard in Denver, they do all of our bonding. They're a very good financial legal firm that can walk you through that. We only have 3 stores. I would imagine that you'll collect more than 50,000 the first year. So you work with them and your financial department, and they let you know, give you some advice, walk you through that. It's only the first year though, and that's cheaper. So that answers that. Everything else that I receive, I get to keep moving forward. Transaction fee. The ordinance says anywhere from $2 to $10. So that's, the board can go anywhere they want up to 10. If they ever want to go above 10, it must go back to the voters for approval. We started at 2, we are now at $3. I think your third question was, how much do we collect? And I can share that because it's not sales tax. So on the occupation tax only, nothing else, the town of Vegas collects between $200,000 and $260,000 a year. It is unrestricted and it goes into our general fund. Now, we restricted nothing in the ordinance because we wanted the freedom to do things with it. However, the board has reserved it through a motion and a second at a meeting for capital projects. So I cannot use that to balance operating. We use that for capital.
But they can change that.
They can absolutely change that, yes. Yes. I'm always hesitant to restrict funds when you're going to a vote, because today it might make sense, but 15 years from now it might not. And in order to change that, you must go back to a vote. So anything that you put in this ordinance, anything you want to change, you will have to go back to the voters. So.
Okay.
Council, do you have any questions for Heather? Orly, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any right
Yeah.
now.
I think we'll look into this Sherman and Howard group for some information. Thank you for letting us know what you've done. Appreciate that.
Mayor and council, if you would like, we can certainly reach out to them and start laying the groundwork for this, and at least provide the council with some information and some possible consideration about moving forward to the next steps.
I think, can I chime in? Sorry. I think something we're going to need to establish is like the purpose of why we would impose this tax. We definitely brought it up more than a couple of times, and I can't remember what specific instances those were in, but I just remember, we would need like some other source of funding revenue to be able to support this or that. I brought it up in a chat with Drew Sanders, but it would be great if this could be a community like driven like tax policy, I don't know how to say this, but like, if we could get community input on where funding could go from that tax. And I think that time is somewhat of the essence, as we have, I think a couple states around us have already legalized recreational, but they still have to build out those infrastructures. So I think while we can, we should look to maybe implementing a tax within a reasonable time frame.
I think that's definitely something we need to look into. Drew, if we can move forward on that, please.
Will do, thank you.
Yeah, because I'm really curious what they estimate we could make, because I can see where restricting funds would be, but we have such a bigger budget too than compared to you guys. So like we could, if the community would be okay with us earmarking them for like the PD, you know, using all that money to fund the police department, and then whatever's left over goes into general if we collect enough. I don't know. But yeah, I think it'd be good to just see, yeah, like Arlena said, what this money could be spent on, how much we think we could collect, if it's worth asking the voters for.
Absolutely, and we'll get you the information.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the discussion of Rotary Forum panels in the park system. Director of Parks and Recreation, Dean Palmquist. Good evening, Dean.
Good evening. A little handout, an update.
Pass out some
Yeah,
handouts there.
it's just an update in your council packet for the panel drawing. So this is a little more specific. This is for Orly. There you go. We're gonna put this up here for me anyway, so a little better. Bill Tietzel is supposed to be here shortly, and he will help present as he's the Rotary member, but I can at least get this started. That we've been in conversation now with Brenda about several months now anyway, to try to see about putting more art in the park spaces, the public spaces. I'm a really firm advocate of this. I think that is something that we have such a great park system, and it's just, we'll raise it to, I think, another level of interest for community and viewing art in the park. And so we're here to talk mainly tonight about art panels, but within that conversation, I think we need to talk to a greater vision as well. So you as a council can see a comprehensive vision of what can be. And so I think in the memo there, I state about the Rotary Forum, this art panels, and we're looking at somewhere along at Veterans Park along the highway that these panels will be up, and also at the playground area. And I think that one of the bases of these panels is to have a chalkboard. So it's kind of like can be something very playful for the kids in the playground in particular, where they can have different chalk and use their creative skills, and then, erase it, and they can come up with something else. And I know other parks in other cities have done this, but the Rotary Forum one too may also even have a chalkboard. And we've been in conversations with like the VFW, a couple of the commander, John Davis, and one other veterans member, that this could be maybe people coming up with ideas, even what could be in the memorial, the memorial for the veterans. And so I really like what Mr. Kiefhofer said earlier about the Heart and Soul Project. And again, trying to, as we can, engage the community to solicit their input. And I think there's a lot of creative ways to do that. And one of them could be from this art panel, to get ideas. And it has the potential too of putting other temporary art displays on it as well. I think it can be used in a variety of ways. And I'd like Mr. Tietzel to talk about that further as we go through this presentation, but one of the other things I think several of the candidates alluded to with these art projects is trying to now bring this community back together. And it's not just Cortez. There's many communities across the country that need to have ideas to bring them back together to work on projects that are for the betterment of the community. And that's truly what will, I think, help bring the community back together when you have a shared vision that you all can work towards. And I really feel this is one of those projects that can help do that. So I guess and we'll take questions. I'd like Bill Teasel to come up here if you would, just to present, at least from the Rotary Club perspective, about this project.
Not sure what I missed here.
Just not a whole lot, not a whole lot.
Okay. Well, basically, so we have this reinvigorated Rotary Club that we're pulling together now. There's some really amazing people who are involving themselves, community activists, and we all seem to have a common vision. And so one of the visions is that we'd like to use public art as an economic and cultural development tool. And we're going to use the Rotary Club to leverage the outcomes of where we can go with it. By public art, what I'm suggesting is high quality graphic presentations, sculptural presentations that are competitive in terms of their definition of art globally. We have a global audience. The traffic that comes through this town coming up from Arizona and California is an international global audience. And so I think that we are going to kind of pander to that audience. So many nuances to this. First of all, let me just say something about the Rotary Club. Rotary International is the world's largest public service organization. And it is started in the 1920s, and it's kind of in this country evolved into a bunch of old white guys chomping on cigars, sitting around having lunch, writing checks, or whoever would come and ask for supplications. And but it's changed. Now Rotary is over 50% women. It's a very powerful organization in Asia and Africa and South America. It is more akin to the Peace Corps. And it's kind of almost as though there's this huge Rotary organization, Rotary International, massive fund. And you can get grants, and then you also give into it. And now it's used for setting up micro-lending organizations, say African villages, clinics, water systems. And it's not like old white guys chomping on cigars writing checks. It's these people developing these clubs in these different areas and actually using the leverage of this organization to do kind of autonomous community development. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to use that same methodology right here at Cortez and in this area. And so now, how does that relate to the public art? Public art is amazing. I mean, the city of Albuquerque has 8 full-time curators now that are managing the public art scene. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry, if you want to call it that, prefer the word event. And it's one of the hottest things going. And it's a way, in our particular case, to, I think, bring together the narratives within this community. We have a very powerful Native American narrative. We have the kind of cultural, historical, agricultural narratives. And if we can curate that and manage it so that the outputs of this kind of initiative are really high quality and kind of an original perspective or an original take on what people call art, it seems very, very likely that we can come up with a platform of or a venue or a gallery of public art that is very, very authentic. I mean, it's going to be the real deal public art as opposed to like a flying ballet dancer that you might see over in Durango or some other movie thing. This will be very heartfelt. It'll be very original
because we are going to be taking the resources in our community, which is us, people, stories that we had, and we're going to swirl that into a story. And that story will come out through art and really the public's perception of it. And so what the Rotary Club is going to do, and what we're working with the Arts Committee in the city of Cortez, is we're going to be creating the venues. We're going to be building the field that young people or old people or people can come into, and they can artfully express their narratives through a criteria that we'll establish, that has to be, I guess, in a form that will be perceived of as heard by the public. And so we're building the field, and we're going to toss them all in, and we're going to develop programs through our Rotary Club. Contests, or in presentations, workshops, we're going to bring people from other parts of the country who are well-established folk artists, which, there are people out there who, if they scribble on your wall is suddenly part of like the public trust and is worth millions of dollars. We cannot understate or I shouldn't say you can't overstate the movement of public art that's going on right now. So we're just going to bring it here, and then we're going to work on it. It's going to be a long-term project, and we're going to do the best we can. And we're suddenly finding ourselves overlapping with other agendas and initiatives in the community, like the Veterans Park. How do we work with that, facilitated in such a way as to deal with some of the cultural voices going on? We see the public art project also addressing some of these cultural divides. The situation in the Veterans Park is something that we're going to turn our attention to and start developing installations. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put up what we call a Rotary Forum. We've got donors now who have covered the whole cost of it. It's going to be kind of like chalkboard panels, and there's going to be a center panel that's going to have, we've got a drawing. You guys have that? Okay, cool. So underneath the Rotary logo, it'll say Rotary Forum. And then Rotary has this 4-way text, which are just basic rules. How to treat people like humans. And then there'll be a little sponsorship thing down there because Rekla, Steel, Comfort Air, Reflections, Novel, and Solve are all donating to it. And then we talked to Dave. John Davis, I'm sorry. So we're going to invite John Davis to the VFW into managing. We're going to have some kind of a graphic font up on the top that is just invites people into discourse. And then on the bottom, we'll be these little boxes where there'll be chalk and erasers, and we're going to put this out there in some position in the Veterans Park. It's just an invitation to come and share your ideas and start your dialogue. We're going to have a little tin roof over it. That's what the Comfort Air is going to go in little boxes. And this is the way of, so this is just a little inexpensive, easy thing. We're setting it up so it can be moved. So it'll go into little caissons on the ground and slide it in, pull it up, and move from one place to another as the Veterans Park develops. And then when it turns out we have enough material left over, we're going to build a chalkboard, put a playground, the same thing in a box. Use that more for just verbal expression. So this is kind of, slow budget, but it's a first. And as far as the Veterans Park is concerned, it's simply a little bit of signage that says, here we are, we've got something going on, come involve yourself, join us. Anyway, so there it is. Any other questions?
I just want to say it's this project is key. It's a really big springboard to me that for number one, for the whole memorial project for the veterans, and to be respectful of them, and we'll engage them throughout the whole process, so we're not doing anything without them being aware of it and giving their 2 cents. Because I want to be so respectful, whatever goes into Veterans Park, that we've worked hand in hand with the veterans group to endorse and approve what goes in there, because they want in the greater vision, put a big loop or two in about the memorial, the war memorials and whatnot. So to me, it's really a welcome to Cortez, and to try to not only what's there, but to get people over the hill to like, we want to do something more with this art walk around Parque de Vida. So that's kind of the bigger vision, is this would be hopefully a caveat to get the tourists and visitors interest and go, hey, what's going on here? And then they go to the Welcome Center, and the Welcome Center says, hey, if you'd like any more of this, there's more over the hill, or we can have a potential art walkway around Parque de Vida. And that's really one of the next, things that we're working really closely with the Arts Committee and, other various groups to make something like that happen. And I think it just has so much potential, and we just want to bring this before the council, and any questions you may have and thoughts as we want to move forward with this. And like Bill said, they've raised most of the monies for this project, and we would try to do a partnership all the way around. So it's just not on the city's dime or anything like that, but we are partnering along the way to really leverage.
Thank you, Dean and
Yeah.
Bill. Thank you very much for sharing your vision of public arts and involvement with the community, and especially getting the veterans involved, because that is a veterans park, and we're very proud of our veterans, and we need as much input from them as possible. And I'm really excited about your plans for this venture, and for your future plans, and it sounds really good to me.
I have a few questions, Mayor. Is that okay?
Are there any questions?
I was just gonna ask, so there's going to be chalk at these stations, is that what you said?
Correct, there'll be like chalkboards with chalk. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And this is gonna be facing Main Street? Where is this facing?
Yeah, that's what our intention is, to have it more facing Main Street, to try to draw attention for people to stop.
Okay, and so I think it's a great project, but I'm also curious if if maybe like a normal blank wall that could be tagged with certain obscenities and stuff like that, like how would this be maintenance? Would city staff go and wipe off stuff that's?
Well, I think the goal we've talked, at least initially internally, is that we would have some type of sealant or some type of coating on this, so it would be easier to remove. I mean, nothing's perfect in the graffiti world, but we would.
You're worried about what things people say.
Well, the things that people will put on it,
Right.
mostly, like that people could put on it, and I don't wanna disrespect the park we just made Veterans Park.
Well, first of all, it's gonna be painted as a black. So we've got the blackboard paint, and it'll be designed and chalk. There's so many graffitis. But you're worried about some really crazy stuff in my show. So am I. So I think that as a Rotary Club, and maybe Mark and Dean, we'll always be watching this, and we're gonna curate it. And so if something pops up that's unseemly, we're gonna erase it. And this invitation that we have, actually, John Davis has some really great ideas on how, what we're gonna write up there to invite people onto this forum. And you're gonna have kids who are gonna do stupid stuff. I mean, that's not so it's just gonna be our role to make sure that we get in there quick enough and just maintain it and watch it and keep the conversation as kind of moderators or curators of it productive. And so when it goes south, we just get out there and get the eraser, and that's the end of that. That's why it's a trouble.
Well, and if you notice, Council members Yazzie, that the because the fencing on the outdoor pool just got tagged, so we went in there and had that painted. So I think you can make the argument almost with any structure that's up and down vertical that could be tagged, you know?
But I think your point about the nature of the discourse. And, yeah, there's gonna be some bumps on the road, but we are going to create discourse, and we're gonna force that issue through curation. And like Melbourne, so they have 8 full-time employees now that are curating or managing their, in this case, public art discourse. And we're gonna have to do the same. I mean, if we want the bar to continue to raise, then we want people's thinking to elevate, as well as the quality of their, I'm trying to say, how they express themselves. You're gonna have to be there, you're gonna have to be a participant, and you're gonna have to be the referee in this situation. And as a Rotary Club, we're gonna do that, and I think too, Parks and Rec participate. And if we shy away from that type of adversity, then we will never get any kind of discourse. And this is about creating discourse, which we really need to do. And so we just simply have to kind of take a hit once in a while and be there to react productively and move forward.
I think it's a forum like with the skate park, we're gonna attempt to do art in the park this weekend and giving youth opportunities to have a place to express themselves in a positive way. And I think we've had studies from back in 2013 when we did that. The graffiti dropped according to the police department at that time, that in several years we had to drop if we give the youth an opportunity, a forum to express themselves.
That is very true. Keep in mind that people do self-manage and they self-edit. And if you're putting up your ideas on the chalkboard as public, you're gonna be a little more thoughtful about what you write down. I mean, like I said, granted, there's some 14-year-old kid who's just gonna be nuts, but check it out, erase it. And well, let's get the ball rolling on the discourse, and let's do it for the city and move forward.
I have a question for you guys. I was looking at this drawing here, the good point on the graffiti, what's going to be brought into the parks, more graffiti, what I thought on that behalf. But looking at the size of this, it's like when it looks just like a billboard. Okay.
Well, can you repeat that again, Orly?
Is that Orly?
Yes, it's Orly.
Oh, hi, Orly.
How you doing?
Wizard of Oz. All right, what? What was your question?
Yeah, I was going to say the size of that structure that you guys could look at, and it's pretty good size. And I just wonder, is it going to look like just billboards in the middle of the park? Make it more attractive for graffiti?
Oh, you're looking at the size? The total length on it's going to be about 20 feet from end to end. It's going to be about 120-degree angle. Each panel is 10 feet long, about a 2.5-foot vertical panel. So in terms of actual panel footage, you're looking at 80 feet. And in terms of the length of it altogether, that's panel square footage. I'm sorry. In terms of vertical linear footage, you're looking at 20 feet panel that you write on 2.5 feet roughly of laser cut. So that's another important point. Reflections of metal is going to come off the center panel where we test sponsors logo. They'll be laser cut. So if that were to be vandalized, we're not having to deal with painting over a bunch of complex fonts. We're just pull it out. There it is. So your laser cut. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm just curious how it look. I guess I need some more info on it before I can even go forward on it.
I think one thing you said is it going to just look like a big billboard? And how are you going to make it look nicer than that?
Well, that was an interesting thought. But I mean, Brenda just wanted me to add like little wordy things onto it, which is nice, but then on the other hand, we're trying to be respectful of the veterans. John Davis wants us to be a somewhat somber type of a park. He doesn't want it to glorify war. He wants it to be reflective of the real consequences of war and whatnot. So I am a little cautious, at least at this point, to embellish it and make it look cute. I don't know, but we're very open-minded. If people come up with ideas, we can add on to this. It's just all well still. But I do want to be very respectful of John's perspective on this, which I think is really heartfelt and well done. So I can't tell you what beyond that.
Got one more thing too, and I put it in the memo, is that this structure is going to be portable. So if that's not a appropriate place, the first place we put it, it can be moved to another location. So that is a good thing. It's not going to be, permanent and concrete, that type of thing. It's got portable ability to it. So I think we have a lot of flexibility in how it can be used.
Yeah, if this thing goes south, then we're going to think on our feet. We're not going to just sit there and kind of watch it go south. It's going to be built in a modular fashion, so there'll be 3 parts. There'll be split in the caissons, so there'll be 7 ground. Caissons can be just pipes. And so if, okay, this isn't working out, then we can move it somewhere else where perhaps it has better effect.
Bill, our city attorney has a question he'd like to ask.
Is this a program that's working someplace else?
In different forms. Yeah, they've done this where they do, I forgot what it was, like, they have these huge chalkboards and they ask these questions like, what's your passion or this or that? And
I guess I was just wondering if there were some, this is the attorney in me, so I apologize beforehand. When you start wiping things out, wiping them off, what's offensive to you might be political speech or free speech to someone. And so I think I'd love to see how other places handle that, because there's some very interesting case law about what you can wear on a t-shirt and it's not illegal, it's political speech. And so I was just wondering if there would be some guidance for council so they would be able to know, yeah, this is terrible.
well,
This is good.
one of the protocols that we had discussed, and I guess we should have brought up this, we're going to code it out every week or 2 weeks anyways. So, and that'll be known going into this. So whatever you put up, no matter how profound it is, it's going away on some given date. It might be the 1st and the 15th. It's a form. This isn't, you don't get copyrights on this. It's a blackboard schoolhouse. So as far as kind of editing, it would be more for just crass obscenities. And in terms of, and we could also, so the Rotary 4-way towns, these rules of civility. If it's in violation of the Rotary 4-way towns, which means is it offensive, does it make people hurt, that kind of thing, then it's just simply in violation of the rules of the protocol that we established. So I think that gives us an out. We already made a set of rules.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Council, if I can just interject myself here, I think this is a little more complicated than just, hey, we want to do this or not. I think there are some legal implications, some ongoing maintenance, and a lot of moving parts here that I think we need to address well in advance of actually presenting this to council. So if it's the will of the council that we at least move forward with that part and direct staff to do a little more work into this, I think we can get back and make it a little better project or not if it's not going to work out.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, we'll do some more looking into this. Thank you, Bill. Brenda, do you have anything to say?
Actually, I do. This is a perfect. Hi, I'm Brenda Van Kuren's. I represent the Arts Advisory, Public Arts Advisory Committee. And this would be a really good opportunity to delegate some of the vetting of this kind of project for the Arts Committee. It was actually established for this kind of purpose. The focus is more on public arts, and so there may be an artistic element to this. The council would like to, you can request of the arts committee to look into it. I've taken notes on the questions that you have had, and committee members will have had also the same kinds of questions about the forum and legal issues as well. Maintenance, that is always a cost, it's always a concern. So if you would like to delegate the arts committee to work on this, you can do that, and we can go through some of the vetting process and report back to you, because the committee is an advisory, it's here for advisory support. So that's all I'm going to say, and thanks.
Thank you, Brenda. Any more questions, comments?
I'd just like to say, I think Brenda is on the right track, that we should be presented with a plan. We should have some numbers. Since this is, we're not sure where the money is coming from altogether. We're not sure how much money we're going to need. We don't know how long it's going to take to make something happen. So if we have a ground plan, I think we can move forward with that.
Yeah, I don't want this to be misconstrued, but I mean, I think overall our purpose today was to try to create awareness and come to the council just for conceptual purposes. And I think it got to be deeper than what at least my intention was. It was just to create awareness of a concept and alert the council to it. And there's obviously follow-up steps from here. So that's what my purpose was for it. Bill's, I think, for bringing this forward.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Brenda. Appreciate your efforts. Okay.
Mayor, could I offer my apologies? I was in court all day and I go from about 7:30 this morning until about 5:10 this afternoon. So I got back and I didn't feel comfortable coming in while you were conducting the news, so I got here a little bit earlier. So my apologies. But I'm here.
Thank you. Welcome. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the budget adjustment presentation. Director of Finance, Kelly Koski. Kelly.
Good evening. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and esteemed council members. I'm here this evening to talk about the 2021 budget as it was approved. Had several large cuts that were included in that budget. Those are the departments, and those cuts are listed in the memo, which was included in the packet. Moving fast forward to current times, I think it's pretty indicative that through COVID, a lot of the things that we felt were going to happen just didn't fall into place. And one of those, luckily, happens to be that the revenues that the city has seen consistently over the past year have been quite a bit higher than we, not only than what we expected, but consistently higher than what our revenues were for the previous year. What I'd like to do is propose that the budget cuts that were implemented for the 2021 budget be reinstated as a mid-year budget adjustment. As we're seeing the pandemic ease, as restrictions are easing, as we're moving into the summer, it's really important that the city is able to provide the kind of services that our citizens have been accustomed to. And with the severe budget cuts that were currently in the budget, that's going to be rather difficult to do. What I'd like to do is I'd like to request, if the council is agreeable, that I bring forward a resolution to the next meeting to do a mid-year budget adjustment that would include, that would just basically add back the cuts that were implemented in the 2021 budget. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Kelly. Any questions from council?
So this still doesn't address, say, like positions that were still open prior to COVID. that we never filled, you know, like a planning and building director or a city engineer assistant or.
So it does address some of those. If you look in the city manager item, there were 2 positions that were cut from that budget. So that dollar amount would add those positions back in. Also at the library, included with that cut was 1 part-time position that was open. So that dollar amount would add that position back in. So there are some of the positions that were included specifically with those cuts that are included in that budget revision.
Answer your question, Rachel?
I guess, you know, so a lot of this was travel and training. So say, you know, we implement that back, but there's not much travel and training to be done and they don't spend that money. Is that just gonna go back to general fund?
No, it can actually stay within that department's budget. When we prepare the 2022 budget, if they haven't spent the entire amount of their budget, that can be incorporated in the 2022 budget. You know, a lot of the trainings right now are still being held virtually. A lot of the conferences that we normally would attend are also going to be virtually. But I see that changing moving forward as we get closer to the end of the year and those annual conferences. I know we'll probably pick up. For example, I'm a board member of the Region 9 Development or Economic Development Council, and we are actually going to have an in-person meeting in July. Everybody's really excited about that. And I think that's going to be the trend we see moving forward, even if those trainings are in different states or different locations.
Any other questions for Kelly? Orly, do you have any questions?
No, my question, the thing Rachel asked it there, because I was just saying, because everything I was looking, everything was just travel, travel and training. And I just wondered if the travel, if it was really the training part, you can almost do everything online anymore. So I was just curious on the travel part, how much money would, how much total roughly a ballpark when you put all this together is travel.
So another option that we have also, this is just what I would propose that we add back in as the mid-year budget adjustment. If the council feels like, you know, we don't need to add any of the travel and training items that are listed in the 21 budget cuts, we can certainly do that. If you feel like only a portion of what was taken out of the 21 budget is what we need to add back in, we can certainly do that also. It's at the council's discretion.
The one other thing I was going to ask, so when those cuts were made was really based on kind of the possibility that we weren't going to have enough money based on sales tax. And I don't know that we should be like nickel and diming the travel and training. We do need our employees to be able to go to trainings and travel. And I mean, that's part of, I would say that's part of our employees being able to serve the community and bring the level of service we expect from them to the community. So to me, I think now that we know that the dire circumstance financially that we thought was possible a year ago or 15 months ago isn't the case, I think we should restore the budget to its previous level.
I agree with you, Robert. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Thank you, Kelly.
Excellent. I will bring forward at the next meeting a resolution to restore those budget cuts. In the meantime, if any of you have any questions, you think, oh gosh, I should ask this, I'm always available, either by email, you can give me a call, stop by my office, any questions that you have, I'd be happy to answer. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. It's time for a general council discussion. We have a few minutes before our regular agenda begins. Are there any items council would like to bring up?
Okay. This is Councilwoman Medina. So I got this email from the USDA Rural Development. And so I just wanted to kind of ask council and staff about this. There's like a housing preservation grant, and basically you apply as a sponsoring organization to hold money for grants for repair and rehabilitation of housing owned and occupied by low and very low income rural citizens. It says eligible applicants can include most state and local government entities. So I was just wondering, kind of with the status of the audits, is that like something we could pursue? Is it worth looking into? You know, what is our grant opportunities? There's just a lot of money being out there, you know, and so I'm just wondering if there's opportunity for us to get some for citizens.
Absolutely. What's the deadline for that grant application?
It looks like July 19th.
So just as an overall, I think knowing the grant application process and how that moves forward, that moves along, especially at the federal level with USDA. I think that certainly is something that would be worthwhile to put the application in. I know that there's been a lot of discussion about, you know, the city's not eligible for grants because of the issues that we have in the audits. However, I can tell you, we have grant money coming in from a lot of different sources all the time. I think what really should have been said is that we are not able to apply for grant funding through DOLA, which is a state agency. But as far to my best knowledge, that is the only agency that has put any restrictions on grant funding for the city of Cortez. I would say as far as the audits go, we are working on an extremely accelerated schedule to have this completed. And I think there shouldn't be any reason why you would apply for that funding.
Okay, so can I share then this email with you to share with staff to look into, see if it's worth pursuing?
Yeah, Councilmember Medina, absolutely. If you'll just forward that to me, we'll get on it.
Okay, thank you.
Final comment, but I had not related to this subject. I've had a couple of people verbalize that, and I don't know if this is something like, something that we can do, it's something that needs to go specifically through Public Works, but they verbalized frustration with the fact that there's road construction on both sides of town. To where a lot of that traffic is being diverted to Montezuma and Empire Street, and I just don't know if there's any sort of update. I know that I think I've seen the schedule, but I'm a little bit concerned as well, because I've seen it back all the way up to who knows where.
Just 25-minute waits.
With 25-minute waits.
Yeah, it's a significant concern right now. We've got some concern from business owners. I heard a story just today about a elderly lady that was literally stuck in a parking lot for, it was a significant amount of time. She had to walk and get a ride over somebody else. It's a real problem. I reached out to the construction company today. Director Phil Johnson has reached out to them. They're doing their best to keep us informed. The problem is the type of work they're doing is just extremely slow. And I don't pretend to understand what it is, but it's not just a pure paving job. The good news is that will end by July 1, at least the paving part. The bad news is that they're doing the concrete portion on the west side of town, literally through downtown, starting, I believe, right about July 1. And that's going to be not only dirty, obstructive, but it's also going to take place at night. And so the bad part is that this is a state construction project, and we have virtually no control over it other than the request that they keep public.
Do we have like detour maps to help people kind of navigate around it?
they have a public information officer who's been sending that out to the public. We've asked that they go out and actually visit businesses and so on. But I can reach out to her tomorrow and see if there's a way we can publicize that better. And, unless you know your way around here, it's really hard to work around it. We're all impacted. So I think there's a few things we can do to try to, get them to up their game a little bit. But point is well taken, and it's affecting all of us.
Yeah, I think it would be imperative to do a little bit more education around the detour. Those people also expressed that there wasn't like a definitive detour for them to go to. And I think just like this last weekend, we had 3 or 4 events happening at Park Davita, and there was a lot of traffic. And I believe I also heard that folks from Durango don't even want to come here because there's a crazy amount of construction going on. But yeah, if we can just make sure to put that messaging out, just be clear about what's going on. I think that, I guess, is our best and only option. Thank you.
It's time for a meeting.
Okay, I think we already have, see where, any other council discussions? Okay, I call this meeting adjourned. We will reconvene in about 2 minutes for the regular agenda.
Out of the consent agenda so that I can recuse myself. You know, trying to monitor.
If there's not opportunity to spend it, is it like spend it or you lose it, or does that money, can that money just get reabsorbed, or does it carry over?
Only did a couple of months. No, like